Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is still doing well, and welcome to tonight's second half. Before we jump into it, a couple quick links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click that like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads that I put out daily, click the bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment and share the video. Why? Well, because all of these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. They definitely do matter, and they are appreciated. And with that, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to tonight's second half, shall we? Today's first experience. I've been searching for some semblance of similarity in someone else's encounter for 3 years now, hoping another's experience might align even a bit with my own to validate it. Until last night, I had found details aligning with my own encounter, but nothing I felt was concrete enough to make my experience not sound absolutely insane. It still does sound insane, I know, and I've had no way to further explain any of it, so all I have is what I've witnessed. I found an encounter 18 days ago that sounds eerily similar to my own, the key difference being the familiarity of the voices mimicked, leading me to wonder if this thing had been watching us for a while. To get both of our voices down, it would have had to have heard us. At the most recent, 10 hours earlier before we had left for work. All right, to preface this, I typed all of this as a DM to send to someone after reading this other guy's story. So the syntax is going to be awful. Sorry, it's going to read like a trashy DM, but I honestly get terrified of this thing when I spend too much time talking about it. So I'd rather not type it all again. I've been wanting to write this since it happened in 2019. I legit get really uncomfortable the moment I start. I'm sure the thing isn't actually watching or whatever, but I don't know. I just hate retelling it. Honestly, I think it's important to share, though, because finding someone else's experience led me to finding several others that seemed to align with whatever I saw, and it was honestly so cathartic. I figured maybe someone else might be in the same boat and need some sort of validation that they are not insane. So I was living down in West Texas in this national park where the restaurant I was working at the time rested at the top of a 15-minute hike up a mountain trail from the housing they had us in. I closed up the restaurant after everyone had left for the night, so I was always an hour or two later coming down the hill than anyone else. Usually pretty empty, really quiet, uncommon to encounter anyone else, as the only thing at the top of the mountain is a closed restaurant, gift shop, store, and some other trailheads. There isn't much reason for anyone else to be on the trail at that hour. And this one night, I'm coming down, no moon, it's pitch black, empty trail, characteristically quiet. I rounded this last bend to get to my house, and right before I got off the trail to take a shortcut through the thicket of cactus and brush, there were maybe 15 to 20 trees. Even though it's desert, the top of the mountain has a high Sierra microclimate. When I hear my best friend/roommate call out my name clear as day in the other direction. He said my name, and when I turned, said it again. In retrospect, it sounded funny. It was close, 15 yards maybe, but it sounded far off at the same time, like if someone recorded his voice from far away and played it very nearby. It just sounded off, but not enough to flip a switch immediately, and maybe I'm painting the memory of it differently than it actually sounded. So I'm facing my house maybe 50 yards away, and the voice comes from directly to my left on this foothill of the mountain we had hiked around on sometimes. It has much more tree coverage than the trail I was on, and considerably more than the thicket separating me from the clearing surrounding my house. If you walked 5 feet in the direction the voice came from, you'd completely disappear from the view of anyone on that trail or on the back porch of the house immediately. So, hearing my friend's voice calling me over, I was like, oh, cool, we're night hiking. And I turned to follow it, but right before I take my first step into the tree line, I hear his actual voice down on our porch saying, "Hey, who are you talking to?" which stops me. I turned back to face the house, confused, just in time to see this thing burst out of the thicket. I was just about to shortcut through to begin with before hearing the voice and turned away. And from the exact spot I had walked down every single night, this thing bolts. It was humanoid technically, but the thing was tall and way too skinny for a human, at least 8 feet and slim. It looked inhumanely slender. It was hunched over, running like it just burst off the track mark, but kept that same form the whole time. Never got all the way upright. Okay, so as for the color, this is what's messed with me, because for one, I'm colorblind. And it was like a greenish/yellow thing, and I get greens and yellows mixed up a lot. This hue of green and yellow, at least, and for two, it looked like it was giving off its own glow, which has always sounded so absolutely ludicrous. I never tell anyone that I don't absolutely trust them to give me the benefit of the doubt before thinking that I am completely BSing. Because if I had heard this, I would honestly think someone, at the very least, might be BSing a little bit. Our back porch light was on, though, and the thing lined up with where it would have had to have been shining. So, if this thing was translucent, it definitely could have taken on that sheen by reflecting the porch light. The colors do kind of line up, I guess. If you'd reflected the light, it may have looked like this thing's color, but it certainly wasn't identical. Honestly, though, I swear it had its own shine to it. Like looking at a glow stick that's dying, more than enough to see, but kind of faint regardless. It was a light that definitely wasn't there a second before when I had gotten to the shortcut. It would have stuck out for at least 50 yards of the walk at least. It should be noted I had followed the thing's voice. 2 things would have happened. 1, I would have completely disappeared from view of anyone, and 2, I would have turned my back on whatever that thing was and entered into the thicket of trees, weeds, and cactus, far too dense for me to turn around, run, fight back, anything. And that trail I would have gone toward leads directly to the edge of a cliff that drops down into a massive break in the mountains. The window in Big Bend National Park. That cleanly drops all of 6,000 feet to a wide-open desert below. That could be the purpose of that direction. If I was going to do some nefarious crap, it would be the perfect place to both find someone and lead them quickly to a spot where no one else would come up to you. Legit, in the middle of day, you could probably make someone disappear over there if you wanted. Anyway, how this thing was running, it immediately felt like I had spooked it. Like how a deer runs off from a noise, but this was different, in that it seemed a lot more determined. It seemed intelligent, aware of its own movement, not just acting out on instinct. kind of like spooked a person if they'd been watching you from the bushes or something. Like spooked, but sentient, and definitely acting like I had just foiled some nefarious plan, so naturally, I also bolted, exposing my back to this thing, but taking the opposite, slightly longer way back to my porch. My buddy, God bless his soul, was still there when I made it, and he asks me again, "Who are you with?" His face is just confused. He keeps looking past me, and I'm like, "You heard it too, right?" He said, Yeah. Where are they?" And I was like, What? There were multiple? Apparently, from his perspective, he had heard multiple voices alongside my own, all carrying on and joking around, talking back and forth pretty loudly. He said there were at least 3 other voices talking to mine, but that it sounded like a whole crowd coming down the trail. He said he could clearly hear us getting closer and closer for the past few minutes, and just assumed I had run into a hiking group and talked with them as we were heading down. Not the most uncommon thing in the daytime, but pretty uncommon for the hour of night. It took me a minute to show him that I wasn't messing with him and had not just split off from a group of hikers. I was completely alone and had not vocalized a word until he called up, "Who are you with?" It took a second to even express my side of what was going on. I was so out of whack, I couldn't even find the words to explain, so I just kept shouting, "I swear to God, I just heard your voice, and then this thing, dude, this thing," or something similar. Eventually it registers that there were no other lights on the trail. I wasn't using a flashlight that night, so maybe there was actually some moon out. And I had just heard his voice calling me off the trail and into the dark, and we both began to try and figure out what we had just witnessed. This part might be a little crazy, but I'm not implying anything. I'm just saying this is what I had been doing on the walk down before it happened. So obviously, walking home solo, I hadn't actually said a word. Whoever he heard was certainly not me, and I certainly didn't come with the crowd. But I had been praying like crazy on the hike down. There had just been this super dark negative energy in the house lately, and I was just trying to kind of surround myself with light and positivity, asking God to give me the strength before I walked back in. And out of nowhere, midway through the trail, I got this like absolutely overwhelming joy, like an absolute ecstasy. I was screaming inside, happy as bones, and just felt like I could take on the whole world. Like, no matter what came, I could take it. Maybe I am implying something because call me crazy, but I've always felt like that had something to do with how the night turned out, as opposed to how it maybe would have. I don't know. I know that part really doesn't make any sense, and it sounds insane. But so does the rest of it. So whatever, I certainly don't think it was a coincidence. I'm just not sure what to make of it. Every detail means every detail. That's just what was going on with your boy as the walk was happening. It would have been a noteworthy and memorable night had the thing not done any of this. It was that powerful of an energy. Anyway, that's pretty much it. The only other thing is our memories of it. Out of nowhere, I just sort of stopped thinking of it. Not like I forgot, but like it was hidden behind a thick fog in my head. The next morning, I told the story to a friend, and she uncharacteristically shut me down and just said something like, "Y'all are just crazy and getting scared of these mountains," and just walked away. It really was not like her to dismiss someone, especially a friend, without even hearing them out. She was a real empathetic person. It was legit, like she just heard something that triggered a memory she refused to touch and shut it down before it got too close. I don't know. I could be reading into it, but that's happened a couple of times. Anyway, we've been living on the mountain off and on for a few years at that point, and had never once heard or seen anything remotely similar to this thing until that night. We'd never even heard of a story vaguely resembling it. It just wasn't like we got spooked by our own house or trail we took twice a day, every day. And it wasn't like we were seeing and hearing things based on stories we projected into the darkness. But the weirdest thing happened the moment she walked away. It was legit like a fog slowly poured over the memory, and the last time I remember thinking of it was that moment. And then it just disappeared for months. How in the world does something that massive, that frightening happen in your life and you just stop thinking about it? And then one day it just popped back up. I was honestly so surprised and so unsure of how I hadn't thought of it in so long. It was almost more baffling than anything we actually witnessed. I asked my friend just before I sent this if he had felt the same fog, and he said absolutely. He doesn't really like talking about that night, honestly, and he's told me that, but I can't help but bring it up as often as possible, hoping by talking it through we'd find some sort of explanation for any of it what happened. Even as I'm typing this message, though, I felt like I'd asked him 1,000,000 times already and just forgot his answer. Maybe I have. That isn't a super uncommon thing to do, I guess. Anyway, that's pretty much everything. I really don't know what to make of this all. All I have are the details of that night in my memory of doing something bizarre afterward. I have never known what to make of it, but the other guy's encounter that I read a few weeks ago honestly helped me after 3 years of grappling with this experience. Just seeing something that might be similar seems like I've learned as much about it as I honestly felt comfortable knowing. I just figured maybe somebody else might be in the same boat and maybe needs some sort of validation. Just validation, I guess, anyway. Thanks, and I'm sorry if I wasted your time. Alright guys, tonight I have some terrifying encounters to share with you, along with an encounter that has some video footage and photo. Let's get into it. Tonight's first encounter. I'd like to share a few of my experiences I've had in the past. You see, I'm from Hungary, and all of my experiences have happened in Eastern Europe. Some older, while others are quite fresh. And with that being said, I'm not quite sure if all of my encounters are connected to crawler humanoids. But I've seen and heard many strange things in my life. I was about 12 when this happened. I'm 24 years old now. My summertime was spent with my brother and cousin at my grandmother's house, and I always hated that place. The old ruined buildings, the backyard covered in dense vegetation, and animal remains made the whole thing even worse. Not to mention, we were always scared to go outside after sunset, because we would tend to hear strange things outside, and the light barely hit the end of the backyard. One night, my cousin woke us up and ordered us to grab our slippers and to go outside because he needed to use the restroom. Thing is, my grandmother didn't have a toilet inside. The only toilet we could use was an old small toilet at the end of the backyard in a small ruined building, close to the other ruins. This usually forced us to drink and eat carefully before night, because going outside alone as a child was a very creepy event. And we had already experienced many things prior. We tried to convince him to hold off and just hold it for 2 to 3 hours, when the sun slowly starts to shine on the yard at least. But he told us to mess off, and he couldn't do that, so get up and let's go. We didn't have much choice anyway, so we prepared fast, with me in the lead, of course. The only girl had to go first, definitely for courtesy purposes. We left the house. He ran inside the building, which lay far from the main house, where we actually abstained. My brother and I stood guard. The moon was bright, so I kept my mind busy and out of fear. I laid my eyes on it and tried to enjoy the sight of the illusionary safeness it gave us for a short period. Suddenly I heard the neighbor's dog barking, screaming, shrieking. In the voice of the dog was a mixture of dread, confusion, and pain, like if I would actually beat him or something like that. I had no clue what was going on. I knew that for some reason the neighbor kept his dog closed inside a safe building before darkness fell. But the door was actually a door from a fence, so it always managed to see the yard. The yard where he tended to stay was also closed. This dog really never barked at night, at all, and even if he did sometimes, it was never like this. I can safely say that I had never heard such a voice coming from a dog before. We both stared in the direction of where the dog was, trying to figure out what was going on, but the ruined building covered the scene. We waited and didn't dare move closer, so we kept staring at the pale dark when the barking suddenly stopped. Something terrible fear sat on us in that dread, silent moments, which actually followed us till the end of this encounter, when I finally noticed the reason for the terrible crying. A pale-skinned, eerily thin creature appeared before us from about 15 to 20 meters away. He was walking on all fours in a way I had never seen any other creature being walked before. It was hunched over, its limbs were just too long for its torso. It was hairless, bald. Its eyes did not shine, but when it turned its head towards us, the lamp behind us made its eyes glow. When he noticed me and my brother, it froze for a few seconds. But then the creature started to move its head, twisting, turning. Its movements gave me a sense that it was actually trying to observe us from far away, and decided what to do. Its body also moved strangely sometimes. It raised its torso, and its long and thin arms left the ground. Sometimes it leaned back on all fours as it stared at us. My brother also started to cry and ask what was that. I heard it make one step behind me, but I didn't dare run. Both I and he were paralyzed with the appearance of this creature. I knew that my cousin could finish his business at any time, and if he came out, he'll face the creature, so I tried to raise my voice and said, "Hey, there's something outside." At that point, I didn't care too much about the creature. It had already spotted us anyway. I felt its eyes were forced on me after that warning. I just felt it. I can't really describe the feeling. Actually, it was dead silent around us. No birds, crickets, dogs, nothing. I tried to calculate what to do, but I realized that the house was too far from us. So even if we tried to flee, the creature could have easily reached us, if that was its purpose, and our cousin would still be outside. I'm not quite sure how long we stared at each other. Honestly, I have no idea. It felt like a very long time, but then it turned its body, gave us one final glance, and its head raised, then fled from a different direction. The reed fence which separated my grandmother's plot and the other neighbor's was about 10 feet tall, and I swear to God this creature jumped over it in one single jump. That night haunts me and brings me old questions again and again. I am still not satisfied with the answers I got, and I don't know why that creature left us alive. Long years after this, I still ask my brother about this encounter sometimes to convince myself that I am not crazy. Not like the time would wash away the truth. I ask him if he still remembers that night. He always answers in a low tone, yes, and we never talk about it any further. This next experience happened in the same town where I had that encounter with the pale creature 2 years later. I was sleeping at my other grandmother's house, which is located at the very end of town. Like literally, it was actually the last street which led into the wilderness toward the forest and fields. I kept my windows open because in the summer at night a little fresh cold air was a big help to help you fall asleep. Only the shutter covered the windows a little bit, just in case, not wanting people to peek inside. In the middle of the night, I was dragged out of my dreams by a terrible voice I had never heard before. I can't describe it perfectly. Sometimes sounded like a mixture of several creatures, but wasn't perfectly similar to any I'd know. It was kind of static, if that makes sense. It was sometimes screeching, hissing, clittering, moaning, and what freaked me out the most was that sometimes I managed to hear a human voice between those strange nightmarish sounds, but definitely coming from the very same source. A deep human voice that was not right either, at all. It just was not natural. I can't make out what it was saying, but it often repeated the same sentences. Then the strange sounds came again, as if whatever was outside tried to mock me. I lie in bed, squeezing my hands on my mouth, trying not to make a sound. Tears start to flow down my cheeks. Not just the sounds. I've seen and heard many other scary things before, but the vibe, the atmosphere made this situation much worse. I felt like a caged animal who is stared at by a hungry predator ready to break in. And I think that was actually the case because I spent a lot of time in that house, and I've heard of a lot of people walking before the house at different times of the day and night, so I can make out two things. The sound of the voice is looking in that direction before my window, and the second is that it has to be at least 8 feet tall to be able to make these sounds from that high because the house has a higher built base. It felt like an eternity, and I realized that my dog was silent. Normally he was barking at anyone who was approaching the house. He is very overprotective, big staffy, but on the night he went dead silent, and I didn't hear any other sounds coming from outside, like other dogs barking, which was, well, a huge problem in that part of town, unlike on the other. And I surely started to fear that he got attacked or was killed by this thing. By now the voice changed before going completely silent again. I can say almost after when it left my window, this thing turned around and took its way down the narrow, ruined road back to the endless forest and fields to vanish into the dark. This next event happened close to that town, 20-kilometer distance, where I experienced the two things I've mentioned above. On the edge of the city, surrounded by the woods, wilderness, and also, from a different direction, endless cornfields, embraced by more woods, of course. I was outside in the dark, around 4 a.m., walking with my dog. For some reason, I prefer to walk my dog after sunset because the roads are empty and everything is silent, so I can be alone. I almost reached the park when something terrible just hit me, and I recognized that everything went dead silent. No birds chirping, no dogs barking, no crickets or any kind of bugs, no bats making sounds, nothing. I immediately felt like someone or something was watching me, and before I'd take my gaze toward the direction from where I felt it the most, towards the park. The pale lights around that area burned out completely. Everything went black. My dog stopped moving and sniffing around and stared in the pitch black with me. Suddenly, I started to hear a strange noise coming from the dark, somewhere above, probably from atop of a tree. I had similar vibes to what I have gotten in my second experience. This just happened 8 months ago. Static murmuring, chittering noises started to come from the dark. I tried to see the source, but couldn't. There was no light at all, so if that would be the creature, the lights couldn't make its eyes glow because there was none. I didn't have to push my dog to go back. He literally started running back to the house, and I keep looking back in that direction while that terrible feeling of being watched, literally eaten alive by eyes, kept torturing me. I actually had some other strange experiences around this place as well, with strange figures and feelings. After this experience, my dog absolutely refuses to go near the park at night. Tonight's second encounter is one with video footage and evidence and photos. Something's been keeping an eye on my boyfriend when he goes out at night. This video is his catching the noise it makes. I've tried sharing this with people, but no one seems to take it serious. It's always laugh out loud, it's this, it's that, it's an animal. But I've yet to have someone send proof of any animal making this noise. The closest I've come to finding something that sounds anything like this is a pterodactyl video. This was recorded in Rochester, New York. These woods are not huge, sprawling acres of unexplored areas. I can walk from one end to the other in a few hours. It sits behind a set of 4 neighborhoods as well as an elementary school. They continuously travel during the day. We don't regularly have large cats, boar, wolves, or bear in this area. It's very rare, and if one were seen, it would be common knowledge among the residents being so close to an elementary school. With that being said, across the street from where it scene starts, acres and acres of farmland, woods and houses miles apart. It only comes around when my boyfriend's present. He hears constant strange noises, screams, screeches outside, solo howls, and howls by what sounds like packs of wolves on full moon, and the feeling of absolute dread on a nightly basis. I felt the dread, but have never had anything strange happen to me unless he is with me. He always had unclaimed spiritual senses, mainly through dreams. I don't know if that would have anything to do with the attachment. Anyway, this particular being has only been heard between 1 and 3 in the morning in generally the same area. You can't really tell in the video, but it is very loud. When we walk our dog, we can hear it running through the woods parallel to us. It sounds pretty large and fast and sometimes bipedal. Our dog also does not like this area. She tries to turn around and go home or bites her leash to try and get away. In the video, you can hear it in the water splashing around. It does not sound small. To my boyfriend, it sounded like something being dragged through the water. Also, listen closely when he says that's what made the noise. You can hear it make a deep guttural growl, and it's always moving towards us, not away. The growl and it not fleeing really solidifies to me that it is not a deer, fox, or any mammal I am familiar with that splits at the sight of a human. Along with this video, we also have another clip of rocks being thrown at my boyfriend on the same bridge around the same time, as well as a set of trail cam photos of a strange-shaped large animal stalking a very large coyote. Too many bizarre things have happened for me to feel comfortable letting my guard down. Now, the first video is them in the nighttime, and obviously you can hear their dog walking with them, and it takes off when it hears the growl as well as the other people. The way they explain it, it could be one of 2 things. It could be a crawler, or it could be a Dogman, or even a Bigfoot. But I was looking at the geographics of the area, and I'm pretty familiar with Rochester, New York. There are some wooded areas there, but I'm not really sure a Bigfoot would want to find sanctuary in such a small location. I'm more thinking crawler or Dogman, to be honest. So here's the first bit of footage of a nighttime walk, and you can hear it. It almost seems like it's going to come out of the woods at them.
Yes! Dude, I'm gonna pass out. Oh my god, dude. Yes! Dude, I'm gonna pass out. Oh my god, dude.
And the final clip is what it looks like in the daytime. I really, honestly, now that I see this, I'm leaning towards crawler, but I still think it could be a Dogman. I'm not sure, but I honestly hope these people remain hyper vigilant and stay safe. All right, guys. So as you can see, definitely not sure what it is. Now that I look at the watered area, I am leaning towards a crawler, but I still think Dogman. What do you guys think? On to tonight's final encounter. There's a state park at the base of the mountain near where I live. The mountain is the Conococheague. The state park is Big Spring Park, and it's part of the Tuscarora State Forest. This place is off the charts creepy and weird, but my wife and I like to go hiking there for the reason one time we made the mistake of choosing a trailhead. We ended up off course and didn't realize it until we spent like an hour and a half on the wrong trail. When we figured it out, we stopped to snack and drink some water before heading back. It was a long slog after all. As we were sitting there eating, we started to get this feeling like we were being watched. We started to hear things creeping around in the woods around us, despite the fact that we were quite clearly alone. Finally, we had had enough, so we picked up our packs and started to head back out. I kid you not, we were back out onto the trailhead in like 15 to 20 minutes. It was absolutely insane. We took another look at the map and figured out where we were and where the right trailhead was set and set off. Prior to getting to the trailhead, we took a rest at a campsite that is maintained by the rangers. While we were there, we could hear their village off to the woods. They were laughing and talking, kids running around and playing. It was a very warm and welcoming feeling. While we were at the campsite, we did feel a few raindrops coming down, but the sky was clear, not a cloud in sight. No sooner did we get under the trees on this shortcut trail, the sky was full of dark clouds. Rain started falling like something out of the Bible, and the wind was howling. It was insane. The weather had just flipped. In the middle of it all, I felt extremely disoriented, almost like I couldn't figure out exactly where I was or what was going on. I started hearing all kinds of weird noises like screaming, sirens, and stuff that did not belong in the middle of the woods. At one point, my wife just grabbed me by the hand and dragged me off the trail. We posted up under a short tree for cover and huddled together until things calmed down a bit. As we were walking away, I got this weird vision kind of thing where we started heading up the trail, and then I heard my wife calling me from behind. When I turned back, my wife was standing there begging me to come with her, saying the thing I was following was not her. Then I turned back around, and my not wife turned into some weird creature. As much as it terrified me, the vision was not a premonition, thank God, but it sure did freak me out, had me watching my wife very closely for a while. But it does remind me of something else that people have reported up on the mountain. Fairy lights, will-o-wisp type phenomena that lure people away. I have to wonder if the whole purpose of causing me to doubt my wife wasn't some kind of weird precursor to those lights showing up. Thankfully, the lights never did show that day. However, there are local legends in which people are separated from each other by these lights. The person that follows them is often never seen, though a few have been found dead later on. And there you have it, folks. I hope you all enjoyed tonight's second half as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I'd like to thank you for supporting the channel. It is your support that keeps the channel growing and going, and what gives us all a place and a chance to share our experiences and theories judgment-free. Everyone is simply treated with the respect that we deserve. Please stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and our friends. These creatures are real. These events have happened. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the truth, and God bless you all.